problem is the dollar's become Dumbo's magic feather to us. We're hanging on to this thing, but it has no real power anymore. Truly, gold and silver has a value, an intrinsic value.
Silver and gold investors are watching closely as legislation moves across the country, allowing state citizens the right to reclaim their constitutional right to use gold and silver as legal tender. Today, we're joined by Florida State Rep. Doug Bankson. He's the elected official in Florida, the driving force behind this legislation, and he's going to tell us about the latest developments in Florida. We're also joined by Daniel Diaz from the Citizens for Sound Money. They're helping further this legislation across many other states as well. Doug and Daniel, welcome to Ron's Basement.
Thanks, Ron. We're glad to be here again. Well, I'm glad to be here again, and we got
long time watcher, first time being on the program here. No, listen, thank you again, first of all, for what you do. The average citizen now, there's so much skepticism in our nation, of leadership, of what's going on, instability, especially when it comes with our finances. And when I heard about this, it just really resonated with the key issue that we need to bring stability back and push back upon the centralized digital currency that everyone is looking for and concerned about, because there goes our liberty. So this is so attractive to be able to bring this.
Yeah, it's great that myself and Doug and Daniel are together here talking, but we've got a fourth person with us, our viewer, right? And that's who we're looking out for and who we're trying to protect. And in your case, Doug, that's a resident of the state of Florida. And I think people are scared, angry, and even a little sad with what they see going on a national basis, with the nation's finances in general. And then also, like you brought up, this prospect of CBDCs, and people want an option to protect themselves. What are some specific things that this proposed legislation would achieve to help accomplish that?
Well, it's real wonderful. I want to start out by, I want to grab that book, the book Pirate Money. This is really what brought this onto my radar. Kevin Freeman wrote the book Pirate Money. And the bottom line is every citizen really ought to read this, because it's a quick synopsis of how did we get to this place. The bottom line is, the creator is always supposed to be greater than its creation. So the states created the federal government, but instead it's turned around and they are trying to take the control. And it's time that the states took back the driver's seat. And so this really allows us to do that fiscally. When the dollar was based upon a gold standard, there was something of value behind that. And of course, that was gone in 71, 72, where it was tied more with the oil markets. But now we see the BRICS nations that they're gunning for us. They really want to take the dollar down. And so we need to do something that, is a wise step to allow the average citizen to get stability for their buying power. So, the illustration that I love using with this is in 1979, the average home was $75,000. Today, that same home is around $560,000. But in 1979, you could buy that home for 268 ounces of gold. Today, you would buy it for 268 ounces of gold. So the stability of gold and its buying power, I like seeing it as a boat on the water. Yes, it fluctuates, but it's rising with the tide. Now, unfortunately, that tide is, the inflation rate. And of course, that's being driven by all of the money that's being printed. It's not produced, it's printed. And so it's devaluing our dollar. So the dollar is that weight that's sinking, but the gold and the silver value is riding that and, increasing in its value. So what this bill really does, and we are seeing this all across the nation. To me, yes, it's about the state of Florida because that's who I represent, but I love these United States and I love the liberty that we were founded to enjoy. And as states, we look at one another to see what each other is doing and getting across that finish line. I really want us to be first in this. So there are three key aspects, and let me lay it out very simply. Number one is to have a gold depository that the state controls. I know the state of Texas, they built one for $25 million. Different states have that aspect. the state of Florida, we're going to authorize the CFO to be able to contract that. So rather than, again, it going upon the backs of taxpayers to rebuild something, reinvent the wheel, we're able to contract that with something that is already secure here. So you have the depository. Secondarily is this key that our founders were so wise in having to give the federal government a control for printing the currency. The states left this back door to say we still have the right with gold and silver singularly to declare them as legal tender. Now, everybody's familiar with that phrase because you see it on the dollar bill. You know, this bill is legal tender. The problem is the dollar's become Dumbo's magic feather to us. We're hanging on to this thing, but it has no real power anymore. Truly, gold and silver has a value, an intrinsic value. So this declaring gold and silver as legal tender, it does two things. Number one, it creates the ability to treat it as cash. The thing that I love about this, and anybody who went through the roller coaster with cryptocurrencies, who stepped into the wild frontier there, the moment that you didn't even transition it to dollars, you went from one crypto to another, all of a sudden everyone found out you got taxed right out the yin yang on that one. And so the same thing happens when gold is a commodity. By declaring it legal tender, it now can be treated with the same treatment that cash would treat. So the third portion, and this is what we're trying to get across the finish line here. We've got great support. We're getting positive nods from leadership. Hopefully that this will get across the finish line. By the way, they tell us don't fall in love with your bills. I tell them, well, I'm in deep and abiding light then, because I'm not going to quit on this thing until we see it get across the finish line. And hopefully we do it this session and to be a leader in this. But that third element basically is to make it transactional. And, we've got a little mock-up of a debit card here. Basically, we use this technology. That some of the concern for people has been, well, is this creating a new cryptocurrency? Is this, that seems scary. They like their dollars. And the bottom line is what this is. It's the mechanism that we already use. People are concerned, and rightly so, about digital currency when it comes to centralized bank control. We're founded on liberty and privacy, and we don't want the bank telling us what we can or can't buy. So it makes people a little bit gun shy. But what's great about this, everyone is already using a form of digitalized currency. The dollar really is a paper currency. Digital just simply takes the same value and transfers that. So what this would do is it makes it transactional. So you would have a debit card, which is already used with Glint, on the world stage with Sweden. But it's still a commodity there. So you still have taxes. The moment you take this, and again, the average person, I love this, it just makes gold attainable for anybody, not just the elite. You don't have to buy it in some specific quantity. You can go and you have 10 extra dollars, you want to put it into gold that's stable, you can do that. But when you go to spend it, this is what's exciting. You go down to your local CVS to get a stick of gum. You can run that card. Right. The value is instantaneously, it's sold on the market at the current market value. So this is not hard for the vendor, because the vendor is not taking micrograms of gold and now they have to store it. It's a cash transaction to them. Right. So two wonderful things. It doesn't affect any of the vendors, but for the purchaser, they now have liquidation for their funds without taxation. I love that. That to me really is the home run. That as I'm talking with other legislators, they're like, hey, this we can get a hold of and try and move it forward. So
yeah, well, I live here in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm wondering how long it's going to take me to pack my bags to move to Florida, because I think I'm falling in love as well. Although Missouri has a version of legal tender legislation going through as well. You talked about Missouri, by the way. Okay.
I lived down in Joplin for 10 years when I was a kid. So
it's
excellent. The show me state. We're going to show it to Missouri here from Florida.
That's right. That's right. I like to remind people that this is in the U.S. Constitution, that this is what our founding fathers, who had this foresight to, kind of plan out this great nation, that they went and they made some great sacrifices in the writing of the Constitution. It was not an easy task for them to achieve, but that they specifically put in their gold and silver. I like to also remind people Thomas Jefferson. I read a quote of his recently where he said that, one of the biggest threats to our country isn't necessarily an invading army, but a central bank or large corporations, and that what you're doing with this legislation is to help protect the citizens of Florida. And and I guess to move on to comment about your, Daniel said this, and I think it's a great way to describe it. This asset-backed digital currency, making gold and silver functional. And in that if I do go to CVS to buy, I'll probably buy 2 sticks of gum, but nonetheless, that digital, that it's actually represented, backed by real gold and or possibly real silver. And I'm getting long-winded here, but the other thing that I like about what you're proposing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you aren't trying to reinvent the wheel in Florida by building a mass, by building out a whole system by which to do this. You're talking about a public-private partnership, because there are companies out there that have already been working on this for years, if not decades, that have perfected it and can provide you and the Florida citizens with a functional, effective, cost-effective too approach. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pimbex, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pimbex is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement.
Again, it's in a sense giving the individual, the citizen, which is the one who is the government of this state, supposed to be, it's giving them back their own personal gold and silver standard. So even though the government has long lost that capability to come back to that, I don't know if we would ever be able to get there, but it allows the individual to have that stability. And again, Kevin, who wrote the book, by the way, shout out to Art Alley. He's the one who initially approached me. He has the Timothy plan. It helps people invest according to their values. But what Kevin has used this card is he's traveled the nation, and he loaded some value onto his card, and he's maybe buy dinner with a friend, and he was trying to convince them about this. After about 6 months, he put $500 worth of value, if I'm remembering the numbers right. He spent about half of that. Well, everybody's math would say there's 250 left. But when he went and checked, there was $300 in his account. Why? Because gold appreciated in value. Yes, it can depreciate, but not like the dollar. You put your dollars in the bank, they're already losing value. You can't get enough interest to really keep up with that. So it just allows the individual to use this at least part of their portfolio, to have something that's stable, and it's not fractionalized like they did at Jekyll Island, as our dollars. It's your gold. So a run comes on the dollar, you sit back and sip your iced tea, because your dollars are your dollars, your gold backed currency.
Yeah, I find it interesting as you talk about that the goal, the stated goal, the very publicly stated goal of our Federal Reserve is that our dollar lose 2% of its value every year. Right. I mean, that's their objective. And we know in the, previous couple years, it's been closer to 5, 6, 8, 9% of value loss. And that, your example, to circle back to what you said at the beginning, the average house 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 50 years ago is basically the same price as measured in ounces of gold, but as measured in paper, electronic, fiat currency, whether it's US dollars or euros or yen or any of them, it's just absolutely gone through the roof. Where does the legislation stand? Is it accurate to call it proposed at this point, or what's the status in Florida of the legislation?
Well, we're right at the beginning of the process, and this year there's so much in the pipeline that we're waiting to get it agendaed to the different committees, but it is filed. We're able to get that done the beginning of this week after working through it. And so we're trying to get it agended into, well, they have to assign its committees first, and then we'll get that on those committees. But we're not burning daylight here. I'm visiting with every one of the my fellow representatives here. We also have sponsorship on the Senate side. We've got some real strength behind that from more senior Senate members. So I really believe this has a tremendous opportunity to get across that finish line. And we're just going to keep the pedal down on this and move forward.
Yeah,
and
I go ahead, Dana.
we have bill numbers now too. I think
Yes.
last time when I was interviewed, we were just calling it the Sound Money Act. It's now HB 697 and HB 699. And 699 is important because I think after my interview, there were some people that were concerned about the digital currency aspect and not having freedom or privacy. 699 is an exemption from Sunshine State laws. Sunshine State laws means that if two legislators get together and they're talking about a bill, they have to make it publicly known. And all records are public. The 699 is an exemption to that, so we can have all the accounts, all transactions, everything associated with the depository and the electronic currency completely private. And it's a state law. Every 5 years, a legislature will vote again to keep those transactions and those account holders private.
Again, loss of privacy is a loss of liberty, and so we have to protect both of those aspects.
Yep. Daniel, how if you know, again, we have this fourth person with us who's maybe in Florida, maybe somewhere else in the country. I guess start with Florida specifically. If people want to help support this legislation, I know grassroots support is always a big thing. What would you recommend that they do?
I would recommend we have a campaign on a Line Act. We'll have the link below. I'll send it to you like we did with the last video. They can click on that link if they're a Florida resident, type in their address, and then it'll pop up their rep, their senator, and Governor DeSantis. We already have a pre-filled out email. You can send an email out, and it's not cheap having me and Tony Verdugo, who's our fellow lobbyist from the Christian Family Coalition, pushing this. To keep bringing him and bringing me up here. So they can go to the citizens, the number 4 soundmoney.org, and financially support us so we can continue pushing the Sound Money Act through the legislature, going to committees, meeting with other legislators.
And, you know, I'll just put in there that one of the other legislators that I met with early on had kind of, you know, already had objection to it without really hearing what it was about, thinking, this is another cryptocurrency, this is crazy. And the bottom line is one of the excuses that he used at that point was nobody from my district is wanting it. So we contacted them. They immediately got people from their district to say, hey, we do want this. So the citizens are out there, and it does matter for them to contact their legislators. So whatever district they are in, again, using these tools to make it easy, just to let the legislators know the public wants this, and we are there to represent them.
And it's extremely important now that I have a legislator here that somebody from their district reach out to them, because if somebody from the Panhandle or Miami reaches out to you, it's not that as important as one of your constituents, correct?
Yeah, well, again, a representative is just that. So specifically on the House side, they want to know what do their constituents think, because they're the ones they are reflecting, although we speak for the over 22 million now, and growing fast because of the freedom that's in Florida. Yeah, it's just so important that out of each district, they let their representative know, and it really helps get it across the line.
Yeah, Daniel, I'm going to ask you, I believe it was you who shared a statistic with me that a letter is equal to a certain amount of, will you share that with us?
Absolutely. So an email is the equivalent of 50 votes. A phone call is the equivalent of 100 votes. A handwritten letter, how many handwritten letters have you gotten?
Not a tremendous amount.
1,000 votes.
Yeah.
And then meeting in person, how important is it when they come here to meet you?
Absolutely. Having them show up for committee meetings, it not only is support for those advocating a thing, it also helps to convince the naysayers, because someone in person saying, we want this, you need to represent us, it does have a great effect. 5,000
votes. So I'm not just making this up. We have a representative here, Representative Bankson, that who's just supporting everything, those statistics.
Yeah. And I think it's important to point out that this legislation is for the people, right? It's truly for the people. And I would encourage people, in Florida, but also around the country as well. If this is something that's important to you, reach out to your state representatives, reach out to your state senators, let them know that this is important, because as you said, that's what this government is for. It's for the people. And if you make your voice heard, well, then there's more likelihood that legislation like this will come to pass. Daniel, do you want to talk about it all, what's going on a national basis, or should we just stick with, you want to give us a little update on other legislation?
First Mining Gold is a development company advancing two of the largest gold projects in Canada. Springpole in Ontario and Duparquet, located in Quebec, each already has 5 million ounces of gold reserves, but exploration initiatives are underway at both projects to find even more gold. First Mining is well-financed, has zero debt, and owns an interest in 4 additional Canadian gold development projects.
I'll give a little bit of update of how it's been going this week in Florida. So we've targeted all the Republicans in all the committees that this bill could potentially go to, and on the direction of our Prime Co and Representative Bankson, reach out to the Democrats as well. And I am very pleased with the reception from the other side of the aisle. The Democrats I've met so far, and Representative Bankson met with one of the leading senior Democrats in the Insurance and Banking Subcommittee, and she was receptive as well. Everyone we've talked to, because Bankson is sponsoring it, Senator Rodriguez, Chip LaMarca, who might be coming on here in a little bit, and also Senator Martin, because they're the prime co's, gives a lot of credibility, we were told from the Democratic side, about this bill, that they can get behind it because of who is sponsoring it and who's supporting it on the Republican side.
Well, and to just add to that, Americans are Americans first. And this is one of those issues. This is a human issue. It's a human rights issue. And so it is finding that across the aisle, being able to work together. It's just like on 9/11. We forgot the D and the R. We're like, we're Americans and you don't mess with us. And we are seeing that same thing because it's giving back to the average individual a stability in unstable times.
Yeah. And what it is everybody understands there's something wrong with their money. Well, currency, as I call it, but they see it as money because they're not able to buy the exact same things they were able to buy just a year ago. And it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, they understand that. And when we explain, like Bankson said, that gold has preserved its purchasing power, and that right now an ounce of gold is a little over $2,000, the poor can't afford that. But when we say, well, we're going to make it transactional, electronic, and you can buy as little as $10 worth of gold, they're like, oh, a light bulb goes off. Literally, they're like, that makes a lot of sense for their constituents as well. And we got some exciting news the day before yesterday. The National Association of Christian Lawmakers voted unanimously for the first time in its organizational history to accept the Sound Money Act, and they're going to create model language there were 38 lawmakers there. I don't know how many states, but that is extremely exciting because they're going to be taking the Florida bill, the Missouri bill, and the Texas bill, coming up with model language for a bunch of different states.
And again, the more states that embrace this, the more power we have to push back against this national, CBDC push.
Yeah.
Literally, the state of Florida, if we were a nation, we would be the 15th economy in the world already. But you get just 5 states together and we rival Germany, Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, these different states that have true economic power. And so together, it just gives us a stability and a pushback against the control that's trying to come. So, I like to say the future is coming, whether we like it or not. You can fear it or you can steer it.
Yeah.
I prefer to be in the driver's seat, and that's what this does.
And just to go off of what Representative Bankson just said, it's that movie Avengers with Thanos. It's an inevitability. CBDCs are coming. Yeah. And the only way to combat that, in my view, is having a state-sanctioned gold legal tender bill, and also having a free market solution of gold and silver transactional currency, electronic currency. So I know in the last video, there are a lot of people who are scared of anything digital. This is not CBDCs. Exactly. We have specific language of privacy. We have specific language that's anti-confiscation from the federal, state, and quasi-governmental agencies. We have all the protections that we had a legal team. We had Representative Bankson, Kevin Freeman, their attorneys. We all looked over this bill in Florida. We're like, how do we ensure privacy? How do we prevent the government from taking our gold and silver that isn't even in a custodial relationship? It's a bailment. All the state is doing is providing a warehouse and security with state power. That's it. The gold and silver is owned by the people who have that, who deposit it and have that claim check, which is the electronic currency.
And that's no different than what the dollar was. It was a claim check on something real. Now there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
Except,
you know, that's a great point, right? When we were on the gold standard, the dollar was redeemable for gold or silver. So it's not like it's a far foreign concept. And I love this acronym ABDC, asset-backed digital currency, because the future is electronic, but the future can be electronic and still 100% backed by real metal that's in a safe place, that's segregated and protected and audited and transparent, and can provide, as Mr. Bankson has said, a solution for people to preserve their wealth in an environment where, it's hard to argue that the dollar hasn't lost value, whether you look back 3 years, 10 years, 30 years, or I'm 53, since Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. Who would be, I don't want to play the devil's advocate, but who would be against this? I'm just curious if there any thoughts, or is no one against it?
I think that the biggest enemy is ignorance.
Yeah.
Because it seems when we're able to sit down and talk someone through, again, the fear of digital currency, not recognizing this is actually an asset. This is safer than the dollar bills in your wallet. The fact that, as you stated earlier, the government wants inflation to increase. They just don't want us to feel it enough to get mad. It's like the frog in the water. They slowly turn it up. It's like, Americans, this is not a jacuzzi. They are trying to take control in a very subtle manner. And so this is that pushback. And so really that's what I found for the most part. There are concerns that those who are of the level that control gold markets would, literally still control this and steer it. Well, the bottom line is they're going to do that anyway. This is our ability to push back. And when the Revolutionary Army came together, they were a ragtag group, and no one thought they stood a snowball's chance. But you know what? They held off the then superpower army of the world and won our liberty. And that same spirit of patriotism I see rising up in this, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and it feels like the time is right. I was speaking with Missouri State Senator Bill Eigel earlier in the week, and he said something that really resonated with me. He said, people are scared right now. People know something's not right. People are even a little bit sad with what's going on in the country. And, there's so many, I've been following the gold and silver market very closely for, I guess I could say 2 decades now. And I genuinely sense that more and more people are beginning to realize, we can look even at like what happened with Costco. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but Costco started selling gold bars on their website, and they were like shocked, like these things sold out, overnight. Every time we put them on there, they were gone. That the general population and the citizens of the state of Florida are beginning to realize something's not right. I don't like what's going on, and are looking for other solutions to help preserve their wealth. So it feels like the timing is really good.
One other thing that just came to me as well. This also allows, making it legal tender. It allows two parties. Let's say between the two of us, we wanted to make a transaction. We wanted to be solely in gold or in silver. We will have that ability to do that as long as both parties agree. But what this does is it doesn't force it on anyone. So again, it gives everybody the comfort level of how much do they want to get involved in this. And again, so it's a great transition to be able to get something solid and stable underneath people's fiscal standard.
Because I've heard concerns from people that like, oh, is this going to replace the dollar? No, it's not going to replace the dollar. What it's doing is creating a parallel system to opt out of the dollar. It's not going to get rid of it. The dollar is still going to be in Florida, throughout the United States, because it is the federal currency of our country. But it allows people to put their dollars into gold and preserve their purchasing power.
Yeah, and use it on a functional level as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I want to point out, but wait, there's more, guys, because a lot, we need the support of the silver and gold enthusiast community with this. This also does not prohibit them from continuing to, if they so choose, to stack silver in their safe at home or gold as well. It's not going to take that away either. I mean, the future is digital, and I encourage people that are and again, our fourth person here who's with us, our viewer, to realize that this type system is in the long run a great benefit to anyone who's enthusiastic about silver and gold, who knows the real story behind silver and gold and the wealth preservation and buying power preservation powers that it can grant.
Yes, I heard the voice of your physical gold and silver listeners, and 100%. This bill, if anything, it strengthens their ability to use their physical gold and silver, whether it's U.S. minted coins, buffaloes that are well understood, and then the definition of those gold minted coins that the CFO can expand so you can use the gold and silver in a local retail store that chooses to accept it. You can use gold backs. The language was written by through the Citizens for Sound Money Legislative Committee. We had the general counsel for both gold backs and Valorum helping us with language, which not only is for electronic currency, but for physical gold and silver, including the foils, the gold backs and Valorum, and silverbacks as well. So for your listeners who are only about holding it, I get you, I hear you, I know your concerns. This bill is going to strengthen your ability to use it because U.S. Code 18486, right now, if Florida doesn't have legal tender laws, and you try to use your coins or your gold backs to pay for any type of goods and try to pass it off as currency, the law states that unless authorized by law, if you attempt to use or utter gold or silver coins as currency, you can be imprisoned up to 5 years, fined $5,000 or both. So this bill is going to protect you in Florida, and if we take this version anywhere else in the country, it's going to protect them as well from the federal government potentially imprisoning them and fining them.
Wow, interesting.
And as well, as you mentioned, if you get concerned, it's like, you know what, I'd rather have my stack of gold by my bedside, my shotgun. You can go to that depository and get your weight, troy ounce value of gold and take it back with you. And some may want to keep their individual coinage, in a separate location, because it's not like a safety deposit box. It's based upon the troy ounce. So it has a value of purity. You would get that same value back, but again, with coins, sometimes there's a different premium for those. So, again, just another way of diversifying it, a truly secure measure. And again, a lot more security than the FDIC.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to ask you, one of you to introduce. I have Anna Maria Rodriguez.
Oh, yes.
Oh, hold on here. Oh, shoot. Did she leave us? Hold on. Nope. She's here.
Oh, excellent. Hopefully.
Okay. She's joining. And she should be joining. Anna? Hello.
Senator Rodriguez, you there?
Hi, how's everyone doing today?
Good. How you doing?
I'll tell you what, I am so excited for Senator Rodriguez. She's a rock star over there.
Yep.
And, it's just great to work on both sides of this, the House and the Senate side. And Senator, it's great to see you.
And just to edify the senator, every time I've met with a senator or a rep and they ask me who is the sponsor on the Senate side, and I say it's Senator Rodriguez, oh, fantastic. Yeah. They absolutely love Senator Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and I can only and I can only stay for a minute, Senator Rodriguez, because I have to run upstairs and pack my bags. I think I'm moving to Florida.
Welcome aboard. I don't have a lot of time either. I'm actually just stopping in to say hi for a minute and but just to show my support for our bill, and I'm very excited that we're sponsoring it, and I think it's long overdue. So very exciting times.
Excellent, excellent. Daniel, do you have any questions for Senator Rodriguez?
Yeah, Senator, let me ask what when we presented this bill to you, why did you decide to bring it on? What really spoke to you about the Sound Money Act?
Well, but first of all, the origins of gold and silver, and how, as you explained to me, is something that wasn't it was something that the people wanted as currency. The people wanted to use this as a way of a form of payment, not the government. And I think we're having a renaissance of sorts right now, being that our money, I think, is being hijacked by the federal government, and is really just devaluing constantly based on the decisions of people who are I don't think are making the best decisions on our behalf. And so, why not give Floridians another avenue, another option to have their currency and their money. And I just think it's a great idea to give people more options and more value. So I'm excited, and I hope I know we are going to get it over the finish line this year. It's going to pass, and it will become law in Florida. So
100%.
Yeah, I heard it said recently, to go along with what you said, Senator Rodriguez, that that real money, real forms of money always come from the bottom up. They grow organically, and with silver and gold, you can say, thousands of years of history, and it literally does come from the ground, and it's the people's money. Whereas the bad forms of money are always forced down from the top onto people from governments. And it feels like what's going on in Florida is a real movement to help protect the Florida citizens and help them reclaim their rights that were, originally given to them in the U.S. Constitution.
Exactly. So, and because Florida is such a forward-thinking state, why not address this aspect? Among the many that we've made so many great advances, and that this is one more that we need to add, one more notch in our belt, so to speak. So.
Yeah, there's a reason why Florida's grown like it has. I like forward thinking. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. What I perceive on Florida is that it's also an innovative state in a lot of ways. So
yes,
it'll be exciting to see this move through the legislative process.
Yes, very exciting.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm very excited to work together on this, Senator. And again, we'll just stay in constant communication. And like you said, we're going to get this over the finish line. So
yes, yes.
Yeah, and you weren't here, Senator, when I was giving an update on the law being here in Florida, but we're now going to the other side of the aisle, and the Democrats we have spoken to, when I told them who was sponsoring it on the House and the Senate side and who the prime co-chair of the House and the Senate side, they said they trust you, they trust Bankson, they trust Senator Martin, and they trust Chip LaMarca enough that they will support this bill just because you decided to make this one of your priority bills.
Oh, thank you. That's very humbling. And, I feel that, even though I'm a conservative at heart, I try to be always, collegial and work with all my colleagues, no matter what their backgrounds are, no matter what their beliefs are, because what's good for one is good. It's good. It's got to be good for everyone, right? No matter what your political inclination is. And I think, as policymakers, we always have to think of, is this going to be for the greater good of all, right, of all of our citizens, right? And so that's how I feel I craft policy, and that's why I support this bill, because I know it's going to be good for all Floridians.
Yes. Excellent. Yes.
Excellent. What did I forget to ask? Does anyone have any closing remarks or comments? Because we have. I feel like I forgot something, but I do want to say thank you, to Representative Bankson and Senator Rodriguez. and Daniel for all the work that you're doing on
Yes.
behalf of everyone. And if you guys want to give us some closing remarks and how people can help support you and help support this legislation, that'd be great.
Well, again, for me, as I said, the future's coming. We can fear it or we can steer it. And I like being in the driver's seat. This is key. You know, there's a Bible verse we'll bring out here. It says, money answers all things. And, you know, as Senator Rodriguez said there, this affects the human condition. This affects everyone. This is about not only our state, but literally for our nation. I do believe that this is going to lead and help trigger these things in other states as well. So we're going to run through the finish line.
Ron, thank you so much for having us on your show.
Yeah.
We're going to continue coming on, updating you along the process. And we're just waiting for it to get assigned in the House and the Senate. And the Senate side, it's at Senate Bill 750 and 752. So we have 697, 699 in the House, 750, 752 in the Senate.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Senator Rodriguez, House Rep, Florida State Rep Doug Bankson, and our friend Daniel Diaz, right, the Executive Director of Citizens for Sound Money. I'll have all kinds of links in the description of this video if you want to learn more about any of these individuals. And we will be rooting for Florida. And it sounds like it's going to be a great 2024. And the citizens there will have the ability to protect themselves like the founding fathers laid out in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.